everyone. My name is Ilyana Zelbermans, and this is Avenue Code Extraordinary Women in Tech talk show. Here you will find inspiring conversations with top executives and technology leaders. And if you're listening to us from the podcast platform, be sure to follow us. And if you are watching on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. I am delighted to have our Diamond member, Lisa Davis, with us today. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, good morning.
So excited to have you with us. And Lisa is the EVP and CIO of Blue Shield of California. So welcome to our show. And my first question is, how does it feel to be one of the very small group of top 15% of female CIOs in the nation?
Sometimes it feels lonely being at the top, but I'm really blessed that I'm doing a job that I'm passionate about. I have a team that we've built that's extraordinary, and we're doing really important work and impactful work in the healthcare system.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about your role and what you're responsible for.
Good morning, everyone. Lisa Davis. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Blue Shield, California. We are a nonprofit health payer in the state of California, serving just over 5 million members. And if you think about California, we are essentially the fifth largest GDP. So we function like a small country here in the state of California as we serve our members. And really the mission of Blue Shield of California is to create a healthcare system that is worthy of our friends and family. What does that mean? That means that today we all believe that the healthcare system that we have in this country is broken. And we need to transform that healthcare system in terms of the experience that our members and our customers have, our provider networks, and it's a big task to do that. And there's lots of learnings coming out of the pandemic, and the healthcare ecosystem, I think, is finally ripe for disruption, and that's digital transformation. So my job is to set the technology strategy, to partner as a strategic partner with all of my business partners to develop and devise a strategy of how we will transform how we do business and how we will create a better healthcare system that serves our members and provider networks.
Wonderful. That's amazing journey, because I feel like healthcare is changing, and pandemic gave it a really big boost for the telehealth.
Definitely.
Wonderful. And let's talk about you and your role. And maybe you can share a little bit about your background and your journey, and how did you get started in the tech industry?
Well, as a high school student, I had a love for math. And, when I went to college, I studied computer engineering, really at the counsel and pushing of my dad, who encouraged me to take an engineering route. And at the time, I'm not going to tell you my age, because I'm sure I look much younger than you think that I am. But there was only 6 schools in the United States that actually offered a computer engineering program. So I started in engineering, being one of the few women in that curriculum, graduated with my computer engineering degree from Syracuse University. And I went on to get my master's in more of a human resources management. So I would be more holistic from just a technical track to really learn how to lead organizations and lead people. I started working for the federal government as a high school senior, as a summer intern. And as an engineer, the government was trying to recruit engineers, especially women, if you can imagine, at that time. So I wound up having a full career in the federal government, 26 years in federal government, serving in Department of Defense on the intelligence and then counterintelligence side as the CIO for the counterintelligence field activity. And then my final role in government was for the CIO of the U.S. Marshal Service. I then retired from that first venture and went on to be the CIO of Georgetown University, and had 3 years and spent 3 years in academia. I then went on to take a role at Intel Corporation into high tech, moved the family across country, started on the IT organization in terms of vice president for all of their global supply chain, went to Intel to be the CIO, did not get the CIO role. That's a story to itself, but then had the extraordinary opportunity to lead a P&L and went over to the business side to lead almost a $7 billion business for enterprise and government in our data center group. I was at Intel for 5.5 years and then decided to move to healthcare, having worked in healthcare with healthcare organizations in my role at Intel, to really drive impactful change in healthcare as the CIO for Blue Shield of California. So you take a step back, and I've had 4 different sectors of experience. Some would say maybe I get bored, but I'm always looking for a challenge of where I can play a role that can drive significant change and have impact in terms of the ecosystem and the sector that I'm working in.
Wow, that's incredible. It feels like you've always been surrounded by a lot of male-dominated industry in the government, in the Marshall area, and then you moved into the tech. How did that feel? It probably gave you a lot of strengths also to become someone and a leader you are today.
Well, I say that I grew up in Department of Defense, and that certainly came with learnings, challenges, and opportunities, frankly, of growing my confidence, finding my voice, finding what I was passionate about in order to persevere and continue to succeed in that environment. And you're absolutely right. In every sector that I've been surrounded by men. Actually, in healthcare, I see more women than I've ever seen, but I'll tell you a funny little story. I stepped into a meeting just last week with a vendor partner, a strategic meeting, and I was coming from a different meeting, ran into the office, ran into the conference room, and the conference room was packed with 20 men. And usually it doesn't faze me anymore. I don't acknowledge it. But on that particular morning, when I walked in and they were all wearing dark suits, I said, oh my goodness, I'm still the only woman in the room. So it still happens in healthcare today. But that kind of starting as a high school senior, graduating, working for the government, it certainly taught me a lot. And it taught me how to stand my ground, get really good at my craft, find the confidence in my voice, how to use my voice and bring an impact to that organization, which I carried to academia, which is male dominated as CIOs. Certainly, we all know in high tech, and now into healthcare.
Wow, that's incredible. And it sounds like you have developed your voice throughout these experiences. Tell us a little bit more about your leadership style today, and maybe what shaped it, if there is a turning point or milestone in your career that significantly influenced that leadership style.
Well, I've always been a leader, I think, first and foremost, that stays true to my core values. And what are those core values? Those to me are honesty, integrity, loyalty, and probably they were even heightened if you think about the mission in terms of Department of Defense and supporting and protecting our men and women in the armed forces, right? Those core values are true, I think, to the armed forces, and they've always been true to me. Very mission-oriented, mission-focused, and also knowing how I wanted to be treated, how I wanted to treat the team and the organizations that I am leading. I consider myself very different in terms of high tech and being in these sectors, a very authentic leader, very transparent, very honest with my teams. I really do believe that my job is to enable their success and the organization's success. And we build a foundation of trust and collaboration and partnership in terms of the work that we are doing. And my role of that leader is to develop the next generation of leaders into the roles that they want to be in. So staying true to who you are, staying true to my core values, being vulnerable, being authentic and honest with my team is certainly a leadership that I strive to deliver every day.
That's wonderful, Lisa. Thank you. I feel that you also have such a balanced life. I know you live in San Diego, right?
Yes.
And you travel to the Bay Area for job. You also have a family, and this very, very high, stressful, important job that you're transforming with Blue Shield. Can you tell us, how do you balance your life? What are the key areas for your, for the mindfulness, and where do you find, ways to balance and step back and be a mom and be with your family while you're managing this stressful job?
Well, it's certainly a journey. And I think, depending on what stage of your career that you're at, whether you're just starting in your career, trying to figure out how to have a family, if you have a husband and you're both working partners, to where I am now, and I'm an empty nester. So my youngest child, I have 3 children. She's 21 years old now. Oh my goodness. She's a junior at NYU. So, a different period and phase in my life, considering where I was working full time as an executive, having young children, because I had children later in life, near almost my 40s. And to me, it's never about balance, I would say. I think balance is something that's really difficult to manage and strive towards. I always thought of it more as ruthless prioritization. As women, we play so many different roles and are expected to play so many different roles, whether it's to our parents, our aging parents, our children, our friends, our family, our spouses, our partners, etc. And if I look at a day of where am I most needed? Am I most needed in this particular briefing that I'm presenting to the CEO or board of directors? Am I most needed because I have an aging parent that requires my attention and care? Am I most needed because I want to be at that lacrosse game that my daughter is playing? And I manage my schedule and plan for my schedule to, as much as I can, hit and meet those priorities. I don't know if we remember, one time Michelle Obama said, she went to her daughter's school and said, tell me all the important parties, engagements that I need to know. And I need to know all the way out to November and December, even though it's January, because that's the type of schedules that we have. So one, ruthless prioritization of where I need to be. But I've always been a health and wellness nut, and certainly focused now in terms of lifespan and longevity and being healthy as I continue and we all age as women. What does that look like? What do we need to do to keep our bodies and our mind and our souls healthy and fulfilled and passionate about what we're doing? So I always make time for health and wellness and fitness. I've learned, and it wasn't always this case, to set boundaries. And I always tell those that I'm mentoring or coaching, if you don't set boundaries for yourself, no one else will. They will continue to take your time and schedule your time. And it's not because they have trying to drive you crazy or drive you down. It's just, if you have to set your own personal boundaries. So for example, I set personal boundaries today. In order to get my fitness in the morning, I don't start a meeting till 9 o'clock unless something's mission critical. For the most part, I end my meetings at 5 o'clock. So I have time to think through and finish up things that need to be thought. I schedule exec time in the middle of the day, which is my thinking time. And my admin knows no one takes Lisa's exec time unless Lisa thinks it's okay to take the exec time. So those are just small examples, but setting those boundaries in your life in order to manage your day to day, so that ultimately you can give back and take care and lead the teams and the organizations and the companies that you are working in. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you have nothing to give to everyone else.
This is so great, Lisa. I feel like that time management, it will be in the most pristine way. The higher level role that you get, the more important, like every second of time is valuable. And how do you prioritize and schedule it? And we had a lot of conversations at the end of last year about how women setting up their goals for next year, and all of them, especially higher C-level executives, said well-being and taking care of me will be my top priority, because they put that aside. They don't have time. And it's wonderful that you have that as a part of your journey, because you want to stay connected with your body, with your mind, and also give back. I feel that when you get to the role, becoming a role model and giving back, and you're finding time for that, it's so valuable to the young generation. And having this podcast is wonderful. Thank you for finding time. And since we're talking about giving back, I wanted to discuss a little bit about why the funnel of women coming to the tech is still very small. Tech industry is changing, and in your watch, it's changed significantly from technology to business oriented. Where do you feel that there's still a huge gap, and women choose other professions than IT?
It's such an important question. And, every time I have a conversation on this, I feel like I'm saying it's a call to action, because the numbers, to your point, aren't getting better. And in fact, after the pandemic, we lost at least a third of the women in the workplace. We know we lose a lot of women to the workplace when they want to have a family because they can't find a way. Childcare in this country is a huge issue and problem to find appropriate childcare so women have comfort and confidence in coming back and pursuing their careers as they're having children. But one of the other areas that I've always keep focusing on is we know we lose our girls in the pipeline in middle school. And we all know if we have children, especially young girls in middle school, it's a really difficult period of time of peer pressure, trying to fit in, trying to figure out who you are, hormones, the whole 9 yards. And, I'll share a personal story with my own daughter, who at that time was taking a robotics class. And we don't make robotics, technology, engineering relative to where girls want to have an impact in the world. And I remember her distinctly coming home to me, and I'm asking about her robotics class, and her, as a 7th grader, she said to me, "Mom, this is stupid. I have to move this robot 1 inch, and I'm doing all of the boys' homework. I don't want to do this anymore." So the middle school, high school curriculum doesn't teach technology from a holistic perspective of, frankly, I'm a believer that technology does change the world. Our girls, young girls, want to have an impact and change the world. And we need to make our curriculums in school relative so they see a fit, they see an impact, and they see not surrounded by all the boys sitting in the classroom because our girls aren't there. That just continues in high school, that peer pressure, that lack of connectivity, of relevance of the role that engineering, math, physics all have. So what happens when they go to college, they're not majoring in those engineering fields. They make a decision maybe to do biology or one of the other STEM fields versus straight computer science or a role in engineering. So we have to change the curriculum, I think, starting in middle school, high school, and then even in university, of making it more relative and impactful to women. And we're still not doing that today. So we're not growing the pipeline we need in order to see women and allow women to play these type of roles and move into these leadership roles that are available.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I feel that it's also how do you describe it? The end point, as you said, what are we trying to achieve? Everybody right now, the young generation is trying to see, how can I make an impact? It's all a lot about sustainability, innovation. I want to be part of a company that has the right beliefs. And we're still so far behind from where do we bring that from the school and curriculum. I feel there is more movement within the middle management today, where women decide that technology is not so scary. I would like to change into tech. I am a BA, or I am doing something, with the marketing and business side, but I really want to impact technology. Where do you feel we can influence and help women to change their careers? Any advice on how do they make that shift in the middle of their journey from non-tech to tech?
I think it's easier today than it probably ever has before. And that's because every company today is a technology and data company. Doesn't matter what role you have. Every company they learn in order to remain competitive and relevant in the market, and to win in the market. We need to think like a technology company. We need to think like a data company. So whatever your role is currently, I think that creates a gateway into learning, participating, and being part of a technology or data organization in terms of your path. And in fact, every technology leader needs to think like a business executive. Mm-hmm. So if you put that frame on it of, we're all a tech and data company, and every single one of us is a business executive. I'm just not a technology leader. I'm a business leader. So I need to think about business outcomes, hitting business outcomes, leveraging technology and data to support those business outcomes. I think that allows a pathway of pivoting, if you chose to get more on the technology and data side. And the fact of the matter is, it's always going to make you marketable. So even if you stayed in your current path of being a marketing executive, understanding technology and data actually makes you more marketable in terms of the role you're playing.
Thank you, Lisa. I love it. I feel that the shift is happening. We probably also, they need to find a role model or somebody to look up to and make sure they ask questions and not be shy about, hey, I am interested in changing, and be vocal about it. And from your perspective, I have two more questions to talk about, a little bit about a CIO role and talk about the healthcare industry. So you've been a CIO in a few companies. And if you think about CIO role today, it used to be less influential, I believe, and now it's becoming, you having a seat at the table on the business side. Is that true from your perspective? And how do you feel CIO role will be developing and evolving throughout the next few years?
I think because of the statement I just made earlier, every company is a tech and data company. Mm-hmm. So the role of the chief information officer is now recognized as a key business leader and partner to help that company be successful. So requires us to put a business leadership hat on, just not a technical leadership hat. And the reason I love the chief information officer role is you get an opportunity to look holistically across the company. I mean, I literally partner with every business leader. I have an understanding of what we're doing from a holistic and enterprise perspective to hit our vision to change healthcare. And how do I aggregate and bring those capabilities together is one of my critical roles as a partner. So the role continues to evolve, become more strategically important. We're no longer thought of as just service providers, just kind of keep the lights and the networks up and running and replace my laptop. Our job now is about, how do you leverage tech, artificial intelligence, data, generative AI, all of these new capabilities to accelerate business outcomes and accelerate business impact. That's really exciting. And what's so exciting about being in healthcare, which I always call a target-rich environment, there's lots of opportunity to do. So if you're seeking a CIO role, to me, you would, and I would coach you to seek a CIO role that reports into the CEO, not to the CFO, because then you're considered a cost center, right? And more of a service provider, that you have a strategic role of being a business partner first and driving business outcomes, and you're part of those strategic conversations occurring at the company.
That's wonderful, Lisa. I think you hit a one important milestone that we're living in right now, that CIOs and IT leaders now becoming the key leaders to transform the company. Before it was coming from business, some requests coming in, but now you have that vision of how they're going to make the transformation happen faster with AI and data, and especially healthcare. And I wonder what are your top priorities from the transformation of healthcare? You mentioned a few things, but from the technology perspective, maybe AI, or how do you use data? Any specific things you can share about that industry and how you are envisioning its transforms in the next few years?
I think the core of the healthcare industry and the ecosystem, to me, there's lots of parallels of my work in federal government. It's a very complex ecosystem, multiple different layers, multiple middle layers in terms of getting things done. At the core of it is data interoperability and data sharing. Even in the state of California, we've actually passed a legislative mandate that our provider groups will share member data, clinical data with the health plan. That's not the same for every state across the country. So we have a lot of work to do, but the need to share data, have interconnected systems, interoperability between the systems and platforms is job number one. The healthcare industry has been a laggard. We know that in digital transformation. Coming out of the pandemic, I mentioned this earlier, when Teladoc, to your point, was thrusted to the forefront. Why? Because we needed to save people's lives. People's lives were at stake. We needed data. We needed to understand what was happening with our patients and with our members. We needed to get care quickly. And so our consumers now understand, why can't I have the same experience that I do when I'm banking, when I'm in a real retail shop? I have those same digital expectations of getting care, having care, whether that's through a telehealth appointment or seeing someone important. So part of making that vision happen is moving our entire infrastructure to cloud infrastructure. Most healthcare companies are probably still operating on premise. You know, most other industries have moved to the cloud. We've been talking about the cloud for, 20 years now. So we've been embarking on a journey, and we're about halfway through year 3 of moving our entire infrastructure to cloud infrastructure and ensuring that our data is in the cloud as well on a core data platform, and working with strategic partners that sets the foundation to allow near real-time data exchange, data interoperability, ultimately a better connection to have a better experience for those members we serve, for our providers and our network, and a transformed capability of what we believe is care worthy of our family and friends.
Wonderful. You've hit so many interesting points about the government connection, right? That there's so many things that we don't see as a consumer, and we don't understand the complexity. Of course, security regulations, but
Yes.
Interesting fact that you've been in California having like an entrepreneurship mind of how do I lead transformation for the entire ecosystem of Blue Shield to use the shared data to actually have access to a much bigger problem that you can solve as a shared group. And there's so many developments are also happening in the healthcare industry from the drug perspective, and where are we leading the charts from the aging and other innovative things, and so many companies are jumping into this field. Where do you feel would be the next breakthrough in healthcare, just in general? from not from the tech, but the healthcare aspect.
Well, I'm really optimistic about generative artificial intelligence. I do believe that the healthcare sector will be the most impacted in a positive way by generative AI. We have about 6 different pilots that are ongoing at the company, everything from prior authorization of procedures to using with their Microsoft 365 capabilities to call center, and the ability to use generative AI with our call center agents. So there's about 6 different pilots that we have going on. And there's a quote that I love that I've been using and sharing, and that is, we are moving at the fastest speed that we have ever seen in terms of technology, but yet it is the slowest that we will see it at this time. That means we've been on this continual ramp, I think from the dot-com era, about whether it's Moore's law, technology continuing to increase the speed at which we're doing business today. We're going to be moving at light year speed with now generative AI. And it's important for all of us, behooves us to understand it. How do we govern it, protect our data? How do we understand the outcomes that this technology may be showing us? And at the end of the day, how does it benefit and serve our members and our provider groups that are using it?
Wonderful, Lisa, wonderful. I feel like the healthcare industry will be the most, receptive and the most impacted in a positive way, but also when we feel about workforce and AI really, really penetrating into our day-to-day lives, where do you feel the advantages of AI would be from the employment perspective? Is there going to be a plethora of new roles coming in from the AI enablement, or more automation, less junior roles, or maybe some roles that will be created to help the AI enablement?
I think there's going to be a whole new suite of roles. I mean, one role that I've been hearing a lot is prompt engineer.
Yes.
And what's interesting about, to the point we were talking earlier, I don't need a deep technical background to understand maybe how to play this particular role of prompting the technology in terms of the question I'm asking and the outcomes that I'm driving to. It reminds me of a company like Google, who always hired business art majors, sociologists, anthropologists, because you need a holistic view of the impact of technology on society. So this is another pathway based on what your passion and your background is. I think that generative AI actually opens up of the role that you can play. I think there'll be lots of junior roles. I think there'll be senior, and there'll be strategic and leadership roles to play. Learning it, understanding it, embracing it versus hiding underneath a rock is really important, because it's not going away in terms of how it's ultimately going to be integrated in our day-to-day.
Wonderful, Lisa. I feel that AI going to be an equal playing field for women to come in as well. It's new, technology has been there, but the way we're applying it, it's very new. So I've been encouraging a lot of women to look into it and not be shy, because a lot of women think, I'm not good enough, I am not technical enough, I won't understand. But becoming more and more integrated with AI field and prompting, and becoming experts on how do I understand the technology, and how do I manipulate the technology, even in a simple day-to-day tasks, could give them this equal rights, and also the creativity and multitasking mind, right, that women have as a the burn right when they have a mother ability and ability to work and multitask. So maybe that could be a very nice entry point for women to become more empowered with tech and AI.
I love that idea. I mean, get involved with the pilots. Most corporations are piloting right now, establishing strong governance, educating their board of directors, their senior leadership teams. Get involved at a grassroots level. it's perfect. And you mentioned one of the biggest obstacles of getting these roles is ourselves. We as women do not like to take risk. And I know most women, and this is a data point, won't apply to those roles if they can't check every objective and requirement that's on the role. And part of my greatest learning has been taking a risk and jumping into those roles. And it was an opportunity where my learning was so much more because of my willingness to have the initiative, take the risk, and learn. And as long as you have the initiative to learn and grow, you can step into any role and learn that role for the most part. I mean, unless you need to be a PhD and it's really highly research oriented, technical. But the fact of the matter is, I always look for people that have the drive and the initiative, the ability to learn, the ability to partner and collaborate with others. And most women should be applying to those roles.
Thank you, Lisa. Your story is so inspirational. I feel that there's a lot of women now want to take the risk, want to take the leap to get to these leadership roles. You can't just stand and look and observe. You have to be out there. And yes, you may make mistakes, but you learn from it. And you jumping from so many industries, different types of roles, and becoming really influential person and leading the charts for innovation for the healthcare industry, it's phenomenal. And I'm so happy we had this call and that conversation. I hope we continue. We would love to see your progress and how everything is shaping up for Blue Shield and for yourself. And thank you so much for joining us on our podcast.
It was absolutely my pleasure. It's always wonderful to speak with you. And I look forward to getting together again soon.
Yes, me too, Lisa. Thank you.